Some of our favorite recordings are actually 78s. Not only do I like the sound, which will offend many people in the audiophile world when they hear me say that, but more importantly, I like the performances, because that was an era when an organization, an orchestra, an ensemble, a singer and pianist had to be really rehearsed. They had to have their skill honed, ready to go, because there were no edits and no retakes. If you were cutting a lacquer for a 78 and you made a mistake, you quit, you threw it out and started again. Everything was one take. And what that does is it not only ups the game for the musicians, they have to be ready, they have to be at the top of their skill, they have to be feeling good, they have to be enjoying the process, and they have to play really well. So that's obviously our goal as a listener too. We want to hear a performance that has that much joy in the making of it. So many times, I won't mention them, but there are some rather world-famous musicians who have wanted to record with us. And I tell them what the process is like in terms of how many formats we record in and the fact that we do not edit within movements, and they run away, which is okay, because there are fabulous labels that do edits, 15, 20, 500 edits per movement, and they can turn out a nice product. It doesn't sound and feel the way I want it to as truly live music performance for the person in the listening room, but they do that very well. If they work with us, they know that they come prepared to record everything in one movement. I have a fun story about the Matheson project. The first movement of the Matheson String Quartet is another one of these fantastic and unplayable movements. It's 22 minutes in length, and there is nary a moment when the musicians can rest or catch their breath or recover from a near miss. So, when the Color Field Quartet came, members of Chicago Symphony Orchestra, to record this a few years ago, they were rather surprised when they said, "Bob, I didn't think you were serious. You actually want us to record this in one take?" I said, "Yes." Well, we cheated a little bit because there was a very complex coda. So we recorded the coda first. So that was safe. Then we recorded the first part, which was also good. So we could have snuck in an edit there. However, I said, now that you've got it safe, let's just play it through. And they did, flawlessly. And that's the one on the album. They always hope that we're going to be more flexible when it comes to the actual post-production process than we are. There is no post-production. Everything we do at Yarlung when things go well is pre-production. All of the mixing we do on stage, meaning moving musicians around so that the mix is the way we want it to be captured by the microphones. We make sure that their sight lines are good, that they can hear each other well. All of that stuff happens before the recording in our rehearsal setup day, whatever you want to call it. The Bob figure out how to record this music day. That's when that all happens. So that when they get to the actual day of the recording, when the takes are hopefully complete, when they go well, they were used to this. They were comfortable with it, and they pulled it off. It's magnificent when you're working with brand new music, because of course we can always call the composer and say, oh, by the way, measure 42 on page 16, you have to change that because our musicians actually played this. No, I'm teasing. They did a very good job. In the late 19th century, when I started recording, this is the way... During the time of wax cylinders, when I began my recording career, there were no edits possible. So, hey, quiet in the peanut gallery. So what this means is that I grew up with that ethic. I grew up with that ethos, and I grew up with that sound. I would prefer a living, breathing performance with musicians who actually play this way than something that is perfect. Perfect can be sterile. And I want it to be real. Granted, no recording is real. It's an artificial recreation of a moment in time, but I want the moment in time to be genuine. the thing is that that kind of performance that is that well rehearsed and good in one take is, to my ear, more inviting for the listener. It's more inviting for the audience because we are drawn into a real event. Granted, a recording is an artificial process. We're listening to something that happened at a different time. And rarely, actually never in a recording, are the musicians present playing for you. We just hope that it sounds like they are. And part of that trick is the living, breathing performance that may be not entirely perfect, but is artistically genuine and is correct for the moment in time when it was recorded. So I would prefer a little slip up and something that's musically very exciting to something that is anatomically perfect and edited after the fact. There is also a practical reason why we don't edit, and that is that we're recording in multiple formats. We're recording in high-resolution PCM, we're recording in DSD, we're recording in surround sound, and we're recording on analog tape. So recording one medium might be something that an engineer is happy doing. Recording that many makes it a really tall order. And I prefer not to spend my life that way. I prefer to be working with the musicians in the hall rather than with a razor blade in the studio afterward.